Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into the pharma sector. Big pharma, actually. We're looking at an argument from some sources we've analyzed pitting two heavyweights against each other. On one side, the huge incumbent, Pfizer. On the other, a specialized, rapidly rising player, Vertex Pharmaceuticals. So our mission here is to unpack this argument that Vertex, that's VRTX, isn't just, a better short-term investment than Pfizer, PFE, but that VRTX might actually be on track to potentially surpass Pfizer's market size, maybe within the next 5 years, which, that's a pretty bold claim when you look at the numbers right now. Let's just quickly check those metrics, get everyone on the same page. Pfizer is definitely the larger company today. Their market cap is sitting around $141 billion. Vertex, growing fast, sure, but they're currently valued at about $109 billion.
Yeah, and that gap, what is it, $32 billion? That's exactly why this is such an interesting comparison. Because, if you just glance at the headlines, Pfizer looks rock solid, almost unbeatable. But when you dig into the fundamentals, like we're doing, you see this huge divergence, a completely different trajectory for each. Pfizer is really dealing with some serious challenges. They're playing defense. Whereas Vertex, they've got this protected revenue stream plus this aggressive growth engine. It could genuinely close that $32 billion gap, maybe faster than people think.
Okay, let's unpack that then. Starting with Pfizer, they had that massive boost during the pandemic years, obviously, but that's clearly cooled down now. What's the sort of immediate issue, the main drag on their financials right now?
Well, the immediate slowdown is really about momentum, or the lack of it. Those huge revenues from their COVID products, they're just not there anymore at that scale. That was essentially a massive sort of one-off surge in sales that, frankly, set some unrealistic expectations for ongoing growth. So now, Pfizer's back to its core business, and that core business is facing a much tougher medium-term outlook.
Right, and I think we need to focus on that outlook because the sources we looked at aren't just talking about slow growth. They're describing something more like an impending financial storm based on patent expirations, these patent cliffs.
Storm or even catastrophe might be the right word. And it's really important for listeners to grasp how this works. When a patent expires on a blockbuster drug, a really big seller generic versions flood the market almost immediately. And that typically wipes out maybe 80%, sometimes 90% of the revenue for the original drug, almost overnight. And Pfizer isn't just facing one of these cliffs. They've got a whole series of them hitting by 2030 on some of their biggest, most important drugs.
We should probably name them just to show the scale of this. Which specific drugs are we talking about?
Yeah, the big three that keep coming up are Eliquis. That's their top-selling anticoagulant, for blood clots. Crucial drug. Then there's Xtandi, a major cancer treatment. And Prevnar 13, their key pneumonia vaccine, losing exclusivity on just that group. Well, that means billions and billions in revenue just vanishing from their books. So managing that kind of decline, it pretty much guarantees several more years of, sluggish growth at best, while they scramble to plug those holes.
That really does sound like a reactive position, a grim picture. Spending money just trying to buy time or soften the blow.
Exactly. They are absolutely on the defensive. They've tried making acquisitions, to refill the pipeline. But those deals rarely make up for the sheer scale of revenue lost from drugs as dominant as, say, Eliquis. It's a really tough spot. They need to spend big money to acquire new growth engines right when their current biggest engines are starting to sputter out.
Okay, now let's flip that completely. Let's contrast Pfizer's worries with Vertex. This is where it gets really interesting, looking at Vertex's current security. The smaller company, yet it's projected to keep growing strongly through this same period. How? How did they build this financial fortress?
They built it very strategically, through specialization, really, dominating one specific, very high-value area, cystic fibrosis, or CF. Vertex is just the undisputed leader in the global CF market, no question. But the key thing isn't just the market share, it's the value they provide. They are the only major company with medicines that actually treat the underlying cause of CF, the genetic defect itself, not just managing the symptoms.
And that focus on the root cause, that's central to their power in the market, isn't it?
Absolutely. It gives them almost unparalleled pricing power. You can see it directly in the financial data. Look at the numbers our sources highlighted. Vertex has a gross margin of 86.08%.
Wait, did you say 86%? 86.08? That's incredible for pharma. Usually you see numbers like that in specialized tech or software, maybe.
It's phenomenal, yeah. In the pharmaceutical industry, that kind of margin just screams market dominance. It means there's basically no significant competitive pressure. When you have the only treatment that fundamentally changes the course of a chronic, life-threatening disease like CF, well, you essentially get to set the price.
And even with all their success in reaching CF patients, the sources suggest they haven't saturated the market yet. There's still plenty of white space left, as they put it. So more growth potential just within CF.
Definitely. They're still identifying new patients around the world, and they're also working on next-generation CF treatments. But the real security for investors, the thing that ties back to this idea of potentially overtaking Pfizer, is their patent situation. Unlike Pfizer, Vertex doesn't have these major patent cliffs looming in the next 5 years. Not even close.
So Pfizer's worrying about 2030. When does Vertex start feeling that patent pressure?
Not really until the late 2030s. Their most important CF drugs right now, Eliquis and Xtandi, they're protected well into the next decade. So this secure revenue stream, this financial fortress, is incredibly stable and high margin. And that's the fuel they're now using to launch their diversification strategy.
Okay, that makes sense. The fortress is secure for a decade plus, so now they can look outward, plan the invasion, so to speak. But for VRTX to actually close that $32 billion market gap with Pfizer, they have to prove they can win outside of CF, outside of rare diseases. And this is where I wanted to maybe push back a little.
Go for it.
Vertex built its name, its expertise on these niche, specialized rare conditions. Is it really realistic to think they can jump into huge, super competitive markets like type 1 diabetes or chronic pain and actually compete effectively against the established giants already there? That feels like a massive leap, a huge business risk.
That's a fair question, and it's absolutely crucial. The forces suggest their approach might mitigate that risk, because they aren't planning to compete by just making slightly better versions of existing drugs. They're aiming for fundamental breakthroughs, disease-modifying, potentially curative therapies. It's the same strategy that worked for them in CF. If they pull it off, they aren't just competing in existing markets, they're essentially creating new ones or drastically reshaping them.
All right, let's get specific then. Detail this offensive strategy. What's coming out of their pipeline right now, things expected to drive growth immediately, say, over the next 5 years.
Okay, so there are two major launches happening basically now or very soon, targeting high-impact needs. First is a drug called Journavex. This is designed as a non-opioid medicine for acute pain. Given the whole opioid crisis globally, a truly effective, non-addictive pain treatment. That's an enormous commercial opportunity right there.
Huge potential. And the second launch involves a pretty major technological shift, right? Gene editing.
Exactly. That's Casgevy. It's a gene editing therapy, really game-changing stuff. It targets two rare blood disorders, sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia, offering what looks like a functional cure. Therapies like Casgevy are incredibly high value, high impact, and launching it immediately positions Vertex as a leader in these next generation therapeutic technologies.
Okay, so those are happening now, but looking a bit further out to the late stage pipeline, the therapy is expected to get approved through 2030. This seems to be where the potential to really, as the sources say, jolt the stock price and close that $32 billion gap lies. They're going after massive chronic disease markets here.
Absolutely. The first really big one is Zymist. This is a treatment being developed for type 1 diabetes, T1D. And crucially, this isn't just another way to deliver insulin. The clinical trial data suggests it might actually restore the patient's own ability to produce insulin.
Wow. So potentially eliminating the need for daily insulin injections for life. That's genuinely transformative medicine if it works out.
It is. If this becomes a commercial reality, it completely changes the T1D market landscape, which is absolutely enormous. And the reason Vertex believes it can succeed, where maybe others have struggled, is tied to their expertise in cellular therapy. They're tackling T1D from a regenerative medicine angle, trying to restore the underlying function, not just manage symptoms.
Okay, and the second late-stage project you mentioned sounds even more ambitious in a way, targeting a disease that currently has no effective treatments.
That's right. That's inaxaplin. It's being developed for something called APL1-mediated kidney disease. We should probably pause here for a sec. This condition is caused by specific gene mutations, APL1 mutations, and it's a major driver of chronic kidney disease, especially in certain populations. But the critical point is, right now, there are no approved treatments that target the underlying cause of this disease. Doctors can only manage symptoms, and it often progresses to needing dialysis or a kidney transplant.
And Vertex is aiming to be the very first therapy that addresses the root cause.
Precisely. If they succeed with inaxaplin, they instantly create and dominate a market for a critical, completely unmet medical need affecting millions. So this focused T1D APL1 kidney disease, it clearly shows their strategy. Capture entirely new high-value markets by using potentially curative or truly disease-modifying science. They're betting big on achieving the highest level of medical breakthroughs.
So let's try and pull this all together. What does it mean? We have Pfizer, the $141 billion giant, essentially playing defense, fighting off generic competition, trying desperately to backfill revenue holes from expiring blockbusters like Eliquis and Prevnar 13.
hmm And then you have Vertex, the $109 billion challenger. They're sitting comfortably on their secure, highly profitable CF fortress. And from that secure base, they're launching these major offensive campaigns into potentially massive, highly lucrative markets where treatments are either lacking or could be fundamentally improved, like T1D and this specific kidney disease. That fundamental difference, proactive offense versus reactive defense, is a core reason the sources we reviewed Project Vertex gaining market value much faster than Pfizer is likely to hold on to its own.
The whole narrative flips, really. Pfizer's big challenge is just managing the decline, defending shrinking territory.
Yeah, well, Vertex's future, its potential growth, is entirely pinned on successfully launching these novel, high-impact therapies. They aren't just fighting for a slice of existing markets. They're trying to establish entirely new standards of care in areas that desperately need breakthroughs.
So for you, the listener, digging into these sources, the key takeaway seems to be this bet Vertex is making. They're betting their entire future growth story on addressing underlying causes. The faulty gene in CF, restoring insulin production in T1D, tackling the genetic root of APL1 kidney disease. And the really interesting question this raises, the provocative thought maybe, is about value and acceptance. How much are healthcare systems, insurers, the whole pharmaceutical world willing to pay for therapies that are potentially curative or truly disease modifying? Does Vertex's success and undeniable pricing power in a specialized CF market automatically guarantee they'll get similar acceptance and premium pricing for their T1D and kidney disease treatments in those much, much larger markets? That's something to chew on. Thanks for diving deep with us today.